How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So happy to talk to you and about this little show.
Uh, so happy to talk with you about this little show as well. Anytime.
All right, so I'll do like a little introduction and then we'll do like a closing. Thanks for hanging out and chatting. And then like we can actually say goodbye after. Other than that,
Okay.
we'll just kind of have a nice little chat.
Okay, great. I love it.
All right, here we go. Hey everyone, this is Max Joseph with Awards Radar, and I am so excited to be joined by a somewhat talented person. I don't know why you're laughing. Um, he he is a dancer first and foremost. Uh,
Oh my God, you know me so well. Yes.
well, I have some people that I'm about to talk to you about. Yep.
Okay.
Uh, this is Jonathan Groff. Mr. Groff, how are you?
Oh, Max, I'm so happy to be talking to you. If the we what would make this better, the only thing is if we were dancing, because you know I'm such a dancer. So
Dancer
that's
first.
really my dance first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell you before this call started, but this is actually not the first time we have talked. Um, in 2008, I believe, you were doing hair in Central Park,
I
and
was.
and one day you went out to dinner with Andrew Kober,
Yes,
and who,
I
by the way,
believe that.
and he told me to tell you that you make amazing stew. But Kober called me because he knew how much I loved Spring Awakening. He handed me the phone and we talked for a good 5 minutes. I think you were at Cheesecake Factory. You signed an empty bill, like a piece of paper, and he mailed it to me. So how you been since?
My mind is blown right now, Max. That is crazy.
Isn't that hilarious?
That is crazy. And what were we doing at No offense to Cheesecake Factory, but I guess were we at the Cheesecake Factory in Midtown on like 43rd Street?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a cheesecake, but I feel like it was. I'll have to ask him.
Wow, that is crazy. That is really crazy.
Throwback, right?
Real throwback.
Anything?
Wow.
So anything has anything been going on since 2008?
That was when I peaked early. That was really the high point, and it's all been downhill since then, since the
That's
Cheesecake
right.
Factory.
As soon as you sang Manchester, England, England, that's it.
I mean, in some ways, yeah, actually.
Great. It was a great production. It was a great production. All right. So let's get to the good stuff. I'm going to ask you a few icebreakers, if you will,
Okay,
and
sure.
then we'll talk Spring Awakening. So
Okay.
these important questions first. Your favorite snack when you go to a movie theater? Hard hitting.
So boring, but popcorn.
Just popcorn, butter, or no?
No butter.
Like coffee black kind of person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A Diet Coke. I would say a Diet Coke and popcorn. Oof. Okay, yeah. And then maybe
Now you're
Mike.
getting somewhere.
Yeah, Mike and Ike's as well.
Ooh, very classy.
Yeah.
Okay. Your favorite movie of all time, or your favorite movie that you've seen recently? Because I know it's a very tough question to ask someone.
Okay. Favorite. You know what? I'm gonna answer both.
Yes.
Favorite favorite movie I've seen recently is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
It's like the greatest thing ever.
It might be, and that also might be the greatest movie I've ever seen in a theater. I loved it so much.
I agree with you.
Favorite movie of all time might be Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
What a perfect answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You're making up for your dance abilities. Speaking of dance abilities, your favorite musical of all time?
that's really hard.
I know.
My favorite musical of all time. I mean, it's like an impossible
You
question,
can
I
give me
think.
like a three.
Cabaret. Cabaret.
Welcome. I love it. I mean, you're nailing these so far. I was a little concerned about the coffee black blank
Yeah,
popcorn
yeah,
with
the
no
very
butter, but like
boring.
you're making up for it.
Okay,
A
great.
dream role, not necessarily like in the movie business, but like just a dream role, either that you'll never play or just like, God, I wish I could play.
Maria in The Sound of Music.
But I would watch the shit out of that.
You wouldn't. But yes, I mean, yeah, that's
If
my dream.
if company can do gender bend, why can't Sound of Music?
It's complicated with like the nun aspect.
That's true.
Yeah. I've tried to think it through a couple of times and I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'm okay with that. It's fine. It's
The shower
Maria,
will do.
it's Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady, it's Sally Bowles in Cabaret, and it's Annie Oakley and Annie Get Your Gun. Those are my four real dream roles that'll never happen.
One day. Never say never, but probably never.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
do it at Broadway backwards, right?
Perfect.
Something like that. All right, let's talk about this thing you are in, Spring Awakening. The first word you think of when you think of Spring Awakening, and I know again, that's like the last broad question I'm going to ask you.
The first word I think of when I think of Spring Awakening is game changer.
Why?
It changed my life. It changed all of our lives. I think it was a game changer for um, theater. I think it broke form in a way that I would say maybe no musical has, no successful Broadway musical has since then.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it was a personal game changer, a professional game changer, and I think a like creative game changer in the world of theater at large.
I would agree. Can you talk a bit about what it was like when you just like found out that that you're going to do this, that you were going to reunite with like your OGs for this one night only concert? Good
So
God.
funny because like it almost didn't happen every month. So Lauren contacted all of us. We got on
Uh-huh.
a Zoom, I would say February of 2021. The whole cast, everybody was like, this is so crazy. Yes, of course we'll do it. And
Mm-hmm.
then it became this crazy race to the finish line to the point where a month before the concert was meant to happen, we were not going to be able to financially pull it together and still raise money for formerly the Actors Fund, now the Entertainment Community Fund. And the whole point was to do it for them, and it was going to cost so much because of COVID restrictions that we were going to have to cancel the whole thing 1 month before. And then HBO came to the rescue and helped us make it happen, both the concert and the documentary.
How did they even no, I guess not hear about it because like it was on Playbill, it was all over the news, but like how did they say, we're gonna take this?
So it's so funny because at the Emmys that year, Hamilton won, and I was doing and was with a group of everybody, and we were all doing that like interviews afterwards.
Uh-huh.
And John came in, and Dave Cerulnik from Radical Media and I were chatting, and they were asking what I was up to, and I was telling them about the Spring Awakening concert, and I sort of softly pitched them in that moment,
Huh.
the just a soft pitch of,
Nothing
maybe
much.
you could capture it, maybe we could document it and interview everybody, because I just am so blown away by the story of even just the development of Spring Awakening and the risks that Tom and Ira and Michael and Duncan and Stephen were taking
Yeah.
creatively, and to get them if they're going to be there and the whole cast is going to be there, I'd love to get everybody just telling their stories, and documenting that. And they got hip to the idea. I then gave them like a formal pitch a week later, and then it was just a matter of trying to figure it out financially. And I had worked with Casey Bloys who's the head of HBO. We'd worked together on Looking
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, 10 years ago. Oh my God. And I just sent him this Hail Mary email and was like, we're trying to raise the formerly Actors Fund, now Entertainment Community Fund. At that point had given, in a year and a half, over $24 million to people in the entertainment industry that immediately lost their livelihood because of COVID. I mean, $24 million in a year and a half to save people's lives.
Amazing.
We're trying to do a benefit for them. We want to celebrate the 15-year anniversary of Spring Awakening. I mean, it was weird. It was the 15-year anniversary on November 15th, which was to the day
Uh-huh.
the 15-year anniversary of our first time performing in a Broadway theater, that show.
Yep.
So there was something in the air about it. He wrote me back 3 hours later and was like, let's work it out. So I would say I was
Wow.
at the gym, I was at Chelsea Piers, I got that email
Mhm.
and I almost like hurt myself. I was like, couldn't like falling on weights, couldn't believe that he was gonna help us. And then the train started and then it was really
Totally.
happening. It's been a surreal ride since then.
Lifting a quick 5 pound weight and all of a sudden just falls on your face. Yeah,
Exactly.
I feel you.
You feel me?
If I had $1. So I'm trying to really just like imagine walking into the rehearsal room. I don't know if it was at Pearl or if it was at like Ripley or Open, what's it called?
Open
Jar?
jar. Yeah, it was open jar.
Open Jar. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because beautiful space, by the way. Like what it was like walking to that rehearsal room after so many years and then seeing all these people you haven't seen in a room, at least together, in what felt like a lifetime. Because I'm sure, I mean, I know you keep in contact with Leah and John and like all these other people, but you were together for the first time in a lifetime. So what was that? Literally walk into the room. What was that like?
Fucking surreal as fuck. It
I
was like, it was especially coming out of COVID too. Like that,
oh,
this was a lot of the, this was all of our, I think all of our first time on stage singing together since, for the last year and a half at that
being
point.
around that many people.
Yeah, totally. We were in that crazy window where the
Right.
theater was coming back. It just started and it was so emotional. And I mean, the minute you see it in the documentary, the
No, I
minute Leah
know.
started singing Mama Who Bore Me, I just like lose my mind. Yeah. Yeah. It was so, and what you don't see in the documentary is us after that music rehearsal going to the like Irish pub downstairs till like 5 o'clock in the morning, getting completely wasted and laughing and all of reminiscing in a
Oh,
myriad of
God.
ways. um, we didn't want to leave each other. That was what was we like got in that room. It was like
Family.
so strange and like what? And I haven't seen you in years and we haven't, like you said, been together in so long. We snuck beer and wine and champagne into that rehearsal room
Oh my
and like red cupped it out for like an hour and thought like that would be it'd be great to have a drink after and then we would all go home. It was a big week, but then we were like, let's keep going. And so then we went downstairs and yeah, then we really had fun.
Oh my gosh. If only they got the solo cups.
They did record that, but it's not in there. They
And
got the
and
solo
and
cups. They did not get the pub downstairs, which is maybe for the best because we were a little sloppy.
there's nothing better than this. It's also so rehearsal and like theater community to bring your own alcohol into a rehearsal space. There's just something like
Totally.
very,
High school about that.
and it's
Yes.
just perfect. That made that, honestly, that's the only thing I'm going to take away from this conversation. What was your favorite part about just getting to do this again? You can also give me like a top three, because again, besides the solo
Yeah.
cups, the dancing.
I think what was my favorite part about Excellent.
Dancer first.
Excellent. My favorite thing about doing it together was the healing that happened. Like there was like Gallagher said a couple days after the concert, we had a drink and
Mhm.
he was like, I think I can go live the rest of my life now. I didn't realize how much I was holding on to in this experience. And I think, and a lot of us, even getting on the Zoom in February to talk about it, felt nervous because it was somehow like, not that there was unfinished business that we were even aware of, or not that there was even anything literally unfinished that we needed to do or say, or felt more like weirdly spiritual or cosmic than that. There was this collective group like thing of 50, which I bet is very universal to anyone that went to college or did a play in high school or did a play in the early 20s. It's like you weren't quite who you were yet, and like shit went down,
Mm-hmm.
and then you left and you became an adult.
Yeah.
And so now we were all coming back together to re-meet each other as adults in the context of the show that we were kids in. And there was just something, I don't even know what it was. I can't even articulate exactly, like I can't say a moment or a thing that happened, but it was just this feeling of this full circle kumbaya moment of healing that happened that just was, it was almost like we were having our own spring awakenings again as a group, and now we can continue to live the rest of our lives. And I have always, we've all stayed in touch, but now after that it was like doubling down in a very profound way that there is not a question that we will be in each other's lives for the rest of our lives. I'm already planning the 20th anniversary at my farm in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not it again, very high schooly. It sounds like when you, because when you do a show and you're not like, it's not like a Broadway show and it's like a proper closing, you have a closing. Like you do like your 50, 108 performances, and then like you have the closure. With a
Yes.
Broadway show, there's not always a closure. Like it was a
Yeah.
beautiful run, but people left. People like, but it sounds like, I'm not your therapist, but it's reminding me of just like having the closure that you never had because it was such a tight-knit family.
Totally. Totally. It was exactly that. We all separated at different times,
Yeah.
and getting to come back as a group and really talk about the show and go like and talk about even the material in the show. And the way that the documentary really, like when they do the whole part where Steven says, Columbine happened and I realized I needed to write a piece of art that spoke to the souls of the youth of America.
Mm-hmm.
To come back as adults to that show, and we're like mending our own personal things, and then we're looking at this show and we're like, oh my God, this show really, of all the things that we've all done in the 15 years since then, there is something really singularly powerful about this work of art and about this piece, and how much it meant to us now. It means even more to us. How much it meant to us then, it means even more to us now. And with this documentary, like getting the word out about Spring Awakening, because it happened before the age of social media,
Yeah.
and the every moment of the show has not been captured for all time, back then. So to now have this kind of document about the power of the show, because it's also such a kind of expressionist work of art that it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to even articulate what it is. And I think the documentary does such a good job of doing just that, of really saying like, this is what it is, and
Mm-hmm.
this, you can point to all of us and say, and this is how it changes people's lives.
Yeah. And speaking of the people who like have been watching this production, so like when we as fans who love the original production, I saw it. I think I saw you when we got to see it, when we saw the documentary, we were so invested in these people going into it. You could see it in the audiences, like the first row, they're like, it's like a rock concert.
Yeah.
So when you watch it or even think about it, because I don't know if you've watched it, but do you think about that night as that was really cool? Or do you kind of relive, or could be combination? You kind of relive the entire experience of like rehearsals, off Broadway, everything that went into making the production what it was.
Yeah, when I think of the experience, it's a very, it's the exact journey that the documentary talks about. I think about workshopping it in the rehearsal halls of Baruch College. I think of what it smelled like the night that it rained on our first preview at the Atlantic. And it was like this misty, strange night. And we were all about to do this show for the first time in front of an audience in this little tiny theater. I remember the feeling of the energy exploding out, exactly what Tom talks about in the documentary, of feeling suddenly like we were going to blow the roof off the Atlantic. I remember the empty houses of the Broadway show. I
Yeah.
remember the way the audience changed after we won the Tonys.
Yeah.
Like it really, I remember it as that whole full experience. Yeah.
So it's so cool. I mean, it's just like I'm also geeking out because it's like it's a show that I also loved as
Yeah,
thousands and thousands. I mean, I don't know millions, but so probably millions of people just like are obsessed with because like it was my rent kind of, you know.
yeah,
Like there were
yeah.
rent heads and there were spring. Did you have a Spring Awakening head? Was there a term for
They were
it?
called the guilty ones.
Oh, duh. I'm a dumb. Yes, of course they were the guilty ones. So you were also pretty decent in the show. If you
Thank
would,
you.
if I could have used a little bit more.
Yeah, always. Me too. I could always use a little bit more of that.
Yeah, it doesn't have a name, but it's that.
Yeah.
So whenever I see a performer just absolutely crush it, I say that they're just like they are in the pocket. So when you play Melchior, no matter when it is, if it was the off-Broadway production or on Broadway or last year, whenever whatever it was recorded, you're just in the pocket for the like for this role. Like, what did it take to get back to that? To get back to Melchior? Because it's a
Not much.
that is
Not
a really brutally tough, beautiful role.
it might be the greatest role I'll ever play. I mean, who knows? I think
It's a perfect
it's
role.
just a phenomenal role.
Yeah.
Um, I I really, Leah makes fun of me about this because before we started, when I was doing the group emails and I was telling everybody about it, about what we were planning, I was really adamant about no one wants to see 30-year-olds acting out 15-year-old scenes. Like we are not acting out the show. We're going to be holding books. We're going
Totally.
to be on stage as adults. We're going to read it the whole thing. We're
Yeah,
never going to put the books down, and we're going to just deliver the show like it's a concert reading, like we're recording it for the radio.
of
Maybe
course.
there'll be music. I mean, I was really anti staging it. And then the minute we got in the rehearsal, I was like, I think I could probably, I mean, what if we put the chairs together like it was the tree? And suddenly I was like, yeah.
What if we jump off the chairs?
And Michael too. Michael and I were on the same page because Michael was like, we'll just do something very simple and whatever. And then
Uh-huh.
the first day of rehearsal, he was like, if everybody could be kind of off book for most of it, that would be great. You know, suddenly it was like we had one day of music rehearsal, 2 days of
Right.
staging, and then the fourth day we were in the theater. So we had no time. But it came back like this.
I
It's like
bet.
so in our bodies. Like, I mean, anything you do 8 times a week for 2 years probably is in your body somewhere. But to do something 8 times a week for 2 years when you're that age and so impressionable, and
Mhm.
you remember everything from that time because everything was so important then. You
Yes.
remember every comment that every person ever said to you. That the music, the staging came back like super fast. And Leah and I would joke like we'll never be able to do that again because I just like laugh at her when she's acting. We just like can't take each other seriously anymore.
Oh yeah.
Um, but then we fucking got in there and it was like we just were like we went right
In the
back
pocket.
in the pocket, exactly.
In that
Everybody
pocket.
was in the pocket. It was like,
Oh my God, yes.
yeah, it was the like, yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Why do you think that? I mean, I know it was like the 15 years and it all happened like very like, oh my God, the 15th day, it's the same day as when we opened. But why do you think that? Because I believe that there was a reason that now was the right time to do this reunion because in the show there's just so much that we still deal with in today's world: abuse, mental health. I mean, there's literally hundreds of things that are in each and every line. So why was it the right time to bring this back? Because I do believe there was a purpose and reason for today.
I agree. I agree with you. I mean, look at what's happening with the abortion laws in our
Yep.
country. And sadly, the issues in the show are endlessly relevant. And I think that Spring Awakening really takes an honest look at all of those things in a very kind of in a poetic way and in a way that takes young people seriously. The material is so challenging and sets the bar really high for the performers to rise to. And every time I've seen this in a community theater or a college,
Mhm.
regionally, the young people are always phenomenal. And taking them seriously and giving them challenging material is what should be done, and allowing people to express themselves at that age. I feel like I just keep saying it over and over again, but it really is life altering and life changing. And even to be feeling like you're heard and being taken seriously as a young performer is so important, and gave all of us so much confidence moving forward. But yeah, the issues in the show, I mean, the section of the documentary with the Dark and Noel about the parental abuse, and Lauren opening up about her story, which she's never done publicly before. And in a way, it was like, we got to go back again. There are certain pieces of material, and there are certain things that you just need to go back. You need to revisit. I mean, we wanted to remind people about this show because it did happen before social media, and it's sort of like this forgotten memory in certain ways. And we wanted to reignite that passion and fire for the show. But even more than that, the director of the documentary, Michael John Warren, said, I want this to be seen all over the world because this material saves lives. And Lauren, at the end of the documentary, says, what we talk about in Spring Awakening, they don't teach in schools. And so this is such a opportunity for kids to be able to kids and teachers and directors or whatever, people in the arts, to be able to open. I mean, I remember when Lauren shared her story that she shares in the documentary to us in rehearsal, when her character got put on that song, and being like, whoa. And moments, like penny dropping moments like that, and allowing kids to express themselves and all of that, and the interest, swelling again about this show is, I think, really, really important, really powerful. And it's, like you said, it's time again, for better and for worse.
Yeah.
Also, even just from an artistic standpoint, the risk taking that happened and the ballsiness of the producers and the creative team are so inspiring. They made something commercial that was the antithesis of commercial, and it worked, and it can work. And continuing to invite those original creative voices into the conversation, I think, is just really important as well.
Yep. I only have a few more questions, even though I could talk to you for 9 hours.
Okay.
When you did the reunion, you kind of mentioned one already. Were there any backstage moments? Okay, you can't count the solo cup. Were there any backstage moments or something on stage that happened that didn't make it onto the documentary? You kind of answered it, but I want a different one. I'm greedy today.
Greedy. Know that I'm greedy.
Hey.
Okay. Is there any? Oh, yeah. Okay. So this bizarre moment happened in the, oh God, I don't know if I want to share this actually.
We can cut this part.
Let me think of a different moment, because I don't know.
Wait.
I don't know if I'll tell you that off the record at the end of the interview, but
Copy.
I don't know if the person involved would want that to be shared. Okay, a moment off stage for the kids that
it can, it can also just be something from the original production, whatever.
I want to think of a moment from the reunion that was really amazing that you don't see in the documentary.
It can also.
I know the moment. It would be. I'm thankful that you don't see this in the documentary, but there was so much. It happened so fast, so we couldn't really stress out too much. But with COVID, I mean, the getting tested and wanting the entire original cast and the entire original band on stage. And if one person wasn't there, it wouldn't have been that. And there was just testing all the time, and there was all this pressure of and we got to the end, and then we did the show, and then we went to the after party. I threw an after party for the cast, and the dancing, the hard dancing that went down on that dance floor is like the release of all of that, like all of the crying and all of the preparing and all of the everything, all the stress of COVID and everything. And then we did it, and then we just got wasted and danced. Yeah, that was a highlight for me that I'll never forget.
What do you want Spring Awakening to be remembered for?
saving people's lives. I mean, it sounds so grand,
Nope.
but it really, like, it is theater like that I would say, and when I say saving, I don't mean like people were going to die and then they didn't, although that also happens because of the people that wrote letters to everyone in the show about, their suicidal tendencies or their depression or their abuse and whatever. So all of that, but even just how theater changed my life. It changed all of our lives, and it, I think, will continue to. And so that just like this sort of like life-saving, life-changing aspect of the show itself, I think, is the thing it'll be most remembered for.
I get it. My dad died from depression, and there was definitely a period of my time where I listened to the show a lot. So
Wow.
it affects people in a wonderful and helpful way. That's what theater does, not just this show, but you're right.
Yeah, and it's one of those where it's like, it's for the actors to express is one form of therapy, but even for the audience to either watch or to listen to that music, or it's very cathartic for everybody involved.
Yep.
Can be very cathartic for everybody involved. Yeah.
So my final question for you is actually the most important one. It's the most vital one. You've done a fair amount of interviews in your career. Why is this one right here, right now, the best one you've ever done?
Because before we even started, the embarrassing stew that I made for Andrew Kober, when he came over to my house in Pennsylvania, and I put this like chickpea stew. I'm not a great chef, but with the crock pot, it seems like it's easier to make good things. And the stew was so disgusting. And he somehow like wouldn't let me, not somehow, he was very stubborn about being like, no, Jonathan, it's good. And I was like, it's not good, Cobra. It's not good. It sucks. Just say the stew is bad. And the fact that moment and that stew, the specificity of that experience and the feeling that I had and the mortification of that made it into this interview. And that was the starting point.
Yeah.
Already set this interview into the stratosphere. It could only have been better than every interview I've ever done after that.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Jonathan, thank you so much for chatting with me. Congrats on this performance on the show, on a wonderful career so far. And I like to say this to everyone I talk to. I wish you many years of success, health, laughter, and most important, happiness. And I can't wait to see what is next for you, my friend.
Ditto, Max. I wish all of that for you as well.
Thank you. Thanks for hanging out.